In science fiction, floating cities are settlements that strictly use buoyancy to remain in the atmosphere of a planet. However, the term generally refers to any city that is flying, hovering, or otherwise suspended in the atmosphere. Earth. In Jonathan Swift's satirical novel Gulliver's Travels, Swift envisioned Laputa, an island city that floated in the sky. The island was suggested to levitate above the Earth by use of the force of magnetism. In the 1920s, Hugo Gernsback speculated about floating cities of the future, suggesting that 10,000 years hence, the city the size of New York will float several miles above the surface of the Earth, where the air is cleaner and purer and free from disease-carrying bacteria. To stay in the air, 4 gigantic generators will shoot earthward electric rays which, by reaction with the Earth, produce the force to keep the city aloft. Quote, although Swift's proposal was intended as satire, Buckminster Fuller proposed the concept more seriously in the form of the Cloud9 megastructure, in which he envisioned structural spheres that float freely in the sky, allowing passengers a migratory lifestyle in a solution to the depletion of Earth's resources. He proposed a 1-mile diameter, 1.6 kilometers, geodesic sphere that would be heated by sunlight, functioning as a thermal airship. Venus. A design similar to Fuller's Cloud9 might permit habitation in the upper atmosphere of Venus, where at ground level the temperature is too high and the atmospheric pressure too great, as proposed by Jeffrey A. Landis. The easiest planet, other than Earth, to place floating cities at this point would appear to be Venus, because the thick carbon dioxide atmosphere is 50% denser than air. Breathable air. 2179 Oxygen-nitrogen mixture is a lifting gas in the dense Venerian atmosphere, with over 60% of the lifting power that helium has on Earth. In effect, a balloon full of human breathable air would sustain itself an extra weight, such as a colony, in mid-air. This means that any large structure filled with air would float on the carbon dioxide, with the air's natural buoyancy counteracting the weight of the structure itself. At an altitude of 50 kilometers above the Venerian surface, the environment is the most Earth-like in the solar system, with a pressure of approximately 1 bar and temperatures in the 0 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius range. Because there is not a significant pressure difference between the inside and the outside of the breathable air balloon, any rips or tears would cause gases to diffuse at normal atmospheric mixing rates, giving time to repair any such damage. In addition, humans would not require pressurized suits when outside, merely air to breathe and a protection from the acidic rain, since such colonies would be viable in current Venerian conditions. This allows a dynamic approach to colonization instead of requiring extensive terraforming measures in advance. The main challenge would be using a substance resistant to sulfuric acid to serve as the structure's outer layer. Ceramics and metal sulfates could possibly serve in this role. Other planets. In addition to Venus, floating cities have been proposed in science fiction on several other planets. For example, floating cities might also permit settlement of the outer 3 gas giants, as the gas giants lack solid surfaces. Jupiter is not promising for habitation due to its high gravity, escape velocity and radiation, but the solar system's other gas giants, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, may be more practical. In 1978, the British Interplanetary Society's Project Daedalus envisioned floating factories in the atmospheres of Jupiter refining helium-3 to produce fuel for an interstellar probe. Michael McCollum notes that the surface gravity of Saturn, that is, at the visible cloud layer, where the atmospheric pressure is about the same as Earth's, is very close to that of Earth. and in his novel The Clouds of Saturn, he envisioned cities floating in the Saturnian atmosphere,
where the buoyancy is provided by envelopes of hydrogen heated by fusion reactors.
Uranus and Neptune also have surface gravities comparable to Earth's, and even lower escape velocities than Saturn. Cecilia Holland populated Jupiter, Saturn and Uranus with mutant humans, the Scythe, in floating cities in her only SF novel, Floating Worlds, 1975. Fictional examples. Literature. The novel Orion Shall Rise by Poul Anderson features an aerostat city called Skyhome, located above present-day France. In the novel The Ringworld Engineers, Louis Wu seeks a way to save the Ringworld by bartering for information in the library of a floating city. Airhaven is a floating city in the Mortal Engines quartet that, through attaching gas bags, lifted itself into the air to avoid cities trying to eat it according to municipal Darwinism. There are numerous floating habitats on the Venus-like planet Chilo in Tobias S. Buckle's novel Sly Mongoose. Buckle credits Jeffrey A. Landis with providing the background information on the floating cities. Saga of Seven Suns by Kevin J. Anderson has giant, manned, gas mining platforms that mine the hydrogen necessary to, among other things, distill into ECT, a vital star drive fuel. Charles Stross's novel Saturn's Children begins in a floating city on Venus. In Hanu Rajan Yemi's novel The Quantum Thief, the Mars colony began as a slave labor latifunda. After war developed, all entities began taking turns being the beings who kept the city rolling and deflecting the permanent attack vectors that had been created during the war. The city kept rolling, with everyone's help. The Cities in Flight series by James Blish propose a universe in which cities cast adrift from the Earth, powered by a fictional spin-dizzy drive. The War of Powers series by Robert E. Vardaman and Victor Milan features a sky city ruled by a race of human overlords called the Sky Born who conquered the city from its original reptilian inhabitants. The city is powered by dark magic and floats in a set pattern over 5 surface cities. Film and television. In the 1936 film serial Flash Gordon, Prince Voltan and his winged hawkmen dwell in Sky City, a metropolis that floats in the sky. Cloud City on the planet Bespin. In the Star Wars film The Empire Strikes Back, Stratos, on the planet Ardana. In Star Trek episode The Cloud Minders. In Firefly episode Trash, the planet Bellerophon is the site of dozens of floating estates with gracious living, ocean views and state-of-the-art security. Quote, Atlantis from the Stargate universe is a probable example of a floating city. Although the city ship weighs several million tons, it is buoyant enough to float on water and, given that its energy shield can hold the atmosphere inside nearly indefinitely, it should be able to float in a particularly dense atmosphere. The Nox of Stargate SG-1 have floating cities. Metro City in the film Astro Boy is floating above the surface. In the film Steam Boy, a steam castle was shown, which was essentially a floating city, kept in the air by means of steam that was directed towards the soil. Hayao Miyazaki's film Laputa, Castle in the Sky involves a floating city hidden in the clouds called Laputa, a name borrowed from Swift's Gulliver's Travels. In the anime and manga One Piece there are sky islands, cities built on a specific type of cloud that has hard, land-like properties, allowing civilizations to have ground to traverse and build on using the same cloud material, along with an ocean-like cloud throughout, making it a close parallel to a normal earthbound island. The unique environment of the Grand Line, an equatorial ocean that circles the globe and possesses all matter of mythical weather patterns. islands and equally mythical sea behemoths, allows for these sky islands to occur regularly, yet are so rarely witnessed even the denizens of the legendary Grand Line perceive them as a myth. In the 2011 animated TV series Thundercats, a race of birdmen live above the clouds in a technological floating city named Avista, powered and suspended in mid-air by the Tech Stone, one of Mum-Ra's 4 power stones. The animated television show My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic depicts a city made entirely of clouds called Cloudsdale, a pun on the Clydesdale horse breed. Video games. The Skyborn metropolis of Caldoria in the Journeyman project and its remake Pegasus Prime. In Minecraft, there is a floating island called the End, populated by gangliominous-looking humanoid creatures called Endermen. Tales of Symphonia features a floating city named Exire, home to the outcast half-elves. Chrono Trigger features the Kingdom of Zeal, a floating island-based magical kingdom, encountered Indiana 12000 BC. City in the Sky, the 7th dungeon level of The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. Skyloft, the town in which The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword begins. Metroid Prime 3. Corruption features Skytown, a floating city on planet Elysia. Mother 3 features a floating city named New Pork City which also appears in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. There are several floating cities in the games Skies of Arcadia and Skies of Arcadia Legends. In World of Warcraft, Dalaran is a major city that floats above Crystal Song Forest in the center of Northrend. The setting of the Eclipse Phase role-playing game includes floating cities on Venus and Saturn. Columbia. The setting for the game BioShock Infinite. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 features Angel Island, a floating island. Vane. The city of magicians of Luna. Silver Star Harmony. Final Fantasy features the Floating Castle, a floating city that resembles a space station. Final Fantasy V features a floating city named the Ronka Ruins. Final Fantasy XII has several in the form of solid Earth islands suspended in the air by mystically charged stones inherent to the Earth making up the foundation of the floating city, with Bujeba being the only one visited and seen firsthand in the game. Sanctuary is the floating hub city of Borderlands 2. Glitzville. From Paper Mario, the Thousand-Year Door, is a small city that floats above Rogueport and its surrounding areas. The RPG Xenogears features a floating city airship named Solaris. Skyborn is a commercial RPG maker game which features a floating city. Heartforth. Elysia is an indie RPG game for the PC which features a floating island. Auster. Xenoblade Chronicles is a science fiction role-playing video game for the Wii which features a floating city. Alchemov. Tokyo Wakusei Planet Tokyo is a science fiction adventure video game for the Sony PlayStation where the main action takes place in floating cities. Kamino Yasha is a science fiction role-playing video game for the Nintendo DS which features a floating land. Mid-Alias. In RuneScape, each clan is assigned to a floating island built by Armadal, called a clan fortress. Other. In the Evolo competition 2012, Wei Zhao describes an island floating in the air using magnets, much akin to the hoverboard featured in the Back to the Future films. According to Steph Wiegers of the Highfield Magnet Laboratory, however, the design could never be created as the Earth's magnetic field is too weak to support such mass. The webcomic Dresden Kodak includes the city of Nephalopolis, a city constructed in the wreckage of a giant floating ancient robot. See also, colonization of Venus, Walking City.